Most horror gives you a monster you can name. These 10 films give you something worse, a person. No demons, no rituals, no cursed objects, just human beings, and what they are capable of when no one is watching. 5 levels, 10 films, each one darker than the last. Let's find out how far evil goes when it has a face. Level 1. They're already inside. You're next. Adam Wingard's 2011 slasher. Your Next opens with a message written in blood on a window. 2 words that tell you everything about what this film intends to do. The Davison family has gathered at their remote Missouri mansion for a 35th wedding anniversary weekend, and beneath the polite dinner conversation, old resentments and sibling rivalry are already simmering before a single killer shows up. Then a crossbow bolt comes through the dining room window and buries itself in a guest's skull, and the night becomes something else entirely. 3 masked assailants, wearing a fox mask, a lamb mask, and a tiger mask, surround the house with methodical, unhurried precision. They jam the phones, they watch from the tree line, they pick off anyone who tries to run. What they do not account for is Erin, Crispian's girlfriend, who was raised on a survivalist compound in Australia and has been quietly rigging the house with traps while everyone else is falling apart. She drives a blender into one killer's skull. She lures another into the basement. She does not panic, does not freeze, and does not stop. But the film's most vicious moment has nothing to do with the masked men. When Erin finally unravels the full picture, she discovers that Felix, Crispian's brother, and his girlfriend Z orchestrated the entire attack themselves, hiring the mercenaries to slaughter their own family for the inheritance money. Crispian is revealed separately as being in on it too. The killers outside were never the real evil. The real evil sat at the dinner table, passed the wine, and watched its own parents die. Erin kills them all, but the night takes one final ugly turn when a police officer arriving at the scene steps through the booby-trapped front door and takes an axe to the face. In Your Next, the monster was never wearing an animal mask. It was wearing a family name. Hush. Mike Flanagan's 2016 film Hush strips the home invasion genre down to its most terrifying truth, that silence is not peace and isolation is not safety. Maddie Young is a deaf-mute writer who lost her hearing at 13 after contracting bacterial meningitis, and she has built a quiet, deliberate life alone in a remote woodland house. She cannot hear the world around her. That is not presented as tragedy. It is simply her life. Until the night a masked man appears at her glass door and realizes, with visible excitement, that she cannot hear him either. He kills her neighbor Sarah just outside the house while Maddie sits inside, completely unaware. He steals her phone. He sends photographs of her, taken through her own windows, directly to her laptop, his way of announcing that he has been watching for longer than she knows. What follows is a prolonged and suffocating cat-and-mouse game where every exit is cut off, every attempt at signaling for help is dismantled, and the killer operates with the unhurried confidence of a man who knows he has already won. When he realizes Maddie has seen his face through the glass, he removes his mask entirely. He no longer needs it. He kills Sarah's boyfriend John when he arrives looking for help, stabbing him in the neck while Maddie watches helplessly. He shoots Maddie with a crossbow bolt in the leg. He crushes her hand in a door. The film is unflinching about the damage a human body absorbs before it stops functioning. But Maddie does not stop. She writes what she believes is a final goodbye to her family on her laptop screen. She types out how her killer looks so someone will know, and then she lures him inside, on her terms, and turns his advantage against him, stabbing him in the neck with a corkscrew after a brutal final struggle. She survives, bloodied, broken, and sitting on her porch as the police finally arrive. In Hush, the monster had every advantage imaginable, and a woman with no voice and no hearing refused to let that be enough. Level 2. Nowhere to run. Green Room. Jeremy Saulnier's 2015 film Green Room begins with a simple, desperate decision. A broke punk band taking a gig they probably shouldn't. The Ain't Rights are 4 musicians siphoning fuel from parked cars to make it from show to show across the Pacific Northwest, and when a contact offers them a paying gig at a remote bar in the Oregon woods, they take it. The bar turns out to be a skinhead club, and the band opens their set with a Dead Kennedys cover. After the show, Bassist Pat goes back to the green room to retrieve a forgotten phone and walks straight into a murder scene. A young woman named Emily, stabbed to death on the floor. The band is immediately forced back into the room at gunpoint. Their phones are taken. The club's owner, Darcy, played with glacial, unhurried menace by Patrick Stewart, arrives and calmly begins calculating how to make 4 witnesses disappear without leaving a trail. What follows is a siege film of suffocating intensity, where every attempt to negotiate, escape, or signal for help is met with immediate, brutal consequence. Band members are killed one by one, throats are opened, arms are shredded by attack dogs. The violence in Green Room is not stylized. It is sudden, ugly, and disorienting, exactly the way real violence would be. Darcy never raises his voice. He simply solves problems, and the band is a problem. Pat and Amber, the only 2 who make it out of the club, kill the remaining skinheads in a final desperate confrontation before encountering Darcy himself outside, staging his own cover story among the dead. They kill him too. They survive, but barely, and at a cost that the film refuses to soften. In Green Room, there is no cavalry, no exit strategy, and no mercy. Just 2 people who outlasted everyone else by the narrowest possible margin, in a place that was designed from the beginning to make sure no one left talking. The Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie's 2005 film, The Devil's Rejects, opens with a police raid and ends with a slow-motion bloodbath on an open highway, and everything between those 2 points is a masterclass in making the audience feel complicit in something they should be horrified by. The Firefly family, serial killers responsible for an estimated 75 or more murders, are flushed out of their Texas compound by Sheriff John Wydell, whose brother they killed. Otis and Baby escape. Captain Spaulding joins them on the road. Mother Firefly is captured, and the 3 fugitives begin a rampage across the American Southwest that is as charismatic as it is savage. At a desert motel, Otis and Baby take a musical group hostage. What happens in that motel room is among the most disturbing sequences in the film, prolonged, intimate, and utterly without mercy. Otis cuts off a victim's face and wears it as a mask. Baby forces a woman to run barefoot across a highway in traffic. The cruelty is not incidental. It is the point. Zombie frames his killers with the visual language of outlaw mythology, wide shots, southern rock, the burning American sun, and the discomfort of the film is precisely that it works. You understand these people even as they do unforgivable things. Sheriff Wydell, consumed by revenge, eventually captures the trio and tortures them in kind, but the film refuses to let justice feel clean. The Fireflies escape, saved at the last moment by the towering Tiny, who snaps Wydell's neck, and the final scene shows Otis, Baby, and Spaulding driving head-on into a police roadblock, guns blazing, choosing their own ending over surrender. They are shot to pieces. The Devil's Rejects does the most unsettling thing any horror film can do. It makes you mourn the monsters, and when the road finally runs out for the Firefly family, the film has already made sure you feel every mile of it. Level 3. Monsters with Reasons. I Spit on Your Grave. Stephen R. Monroe's 2010 remake. I Spit on Your Grave opens quietly. A young writer named Jennifer Hills, driving out to a rented cabin in rural Louisiana to finish her second novel, looking for nothing more than solitude and time. She finds neither. At a gas station on the way in, she has an awkward encounter with a group of local men. It is small, embarrassing, and entirely ordinary. The kind of thing that happens and gets forgotten. Except they don't forget. That night, Johnny and his friends, along with the county sheriff, Storch, who is supposed to protect her, break into the cabin. What follows is prolonged, relentless, and deliberately uncomfortable. Jennifer is assaulted, humiliated, and left for dead in the river. The men go back to their lives. A month passes. They assume she is gone. She is not gone. She has been surviving alone in the woods, and she has been watching them. What the second half of this film delivers is a revenge sequence of startling, methodical precision. Each man gets a death tailored to what he did. Stanley is caught in a bear trap, his eyes pinned open with fish hooks, the camera left recording as crows descend. Andy is submerged in a bathtub full of lye. Johnny is castrated. Sheriff Storch, the one who should have saved her, has a shotgun rigged to Matthew's wrist so that Matthew's involuntary movement fires it, killing them both simultaneously. The film's most devastating line is also its simplest. When Storch begs Jennifer to spare him because his daughter is innocent, she kneels beside him and says, "So was I. I spit on your grave." 2010 is not comfortable viewing. It was never meant to be. But its power comes from a truth that sits underneath all the brutality. The men had their reasons, and so did she, and only one of them was ever truly justified. The Loved Ones. Sean Byrne's 2009 Australian horror film, The Loved Ones, begins with grief. Teenager Brent Mitchell swerves his car to avoid a figure in the road, wraps it around a tree, and kills his father. 6 months later, still haunted and self-harming, he is trying to hold himself together long enough to take his girlfriend Holly to the school formal. A quiet, shy classmate named Lola Stone asks him to be her date. He declines, gently. He already has plans. That is all it takes. Lola and her father kidnap Brent and bring him to their home, where they have constructed their own private prom beneath a glitter ball, complete with a pink dress, a corsage, and a dining table set for two. The father is not incidental to the horror. He is the architect of it, utterly devoted to his daughter's every desire, no matter what that desire requires of others. What follows is a torture sequence that is as theatrically absurd as it is genuinely disturbing. Boiling water is poured over Brent's head. A knife is hammered through his foot, nailing him to the floor. A power drill is used against his skull in an attempt to lobotomize him. The same fate that has already befallen the previous boys buried beneath the house. Because there have been others, many others. The house has a pit beneath it filled with the lobotomized remains of everyone who came before Brent, still alive and crawling in the dark. Brent eventually escapes, fights back, and survives. But the film's true horror is in Lola's complete sincerity. She genuinely believes she is owed this. She was rejected, and rejection, in her world, is the greatest crime imaginable. In The Loved Ones, the monster's reason is the most human one of all. She wanted something, she didn't get it, and she decided that entitled her to everything else. Level 4. The Face of Pure Evil. The Last House on the Left. Dennis Iliadis' 2009 remake. The Last House on the Left opens on a prison transport that never makes it to its destination. Krug Stillo, a convicted killer, is broken free by his brother Francis and girlfriend Sadie in a collision that leaves 2 officers dead before the credits have finished settling. From that first scene, the film establishes something important. Evil here has no origin story, no wound to trace back, no explanation. Krug simply is what he is. Mari Collingwood is 17 years old, a competitive swimmer on vacation at her family's lake house with her parents John and Emma. She drives into town to meet her friend Paige, and the 2 girls end up in a motel room with Justin, Krug's teenage son, who is trying to distance himself from what his family is. The gang finds them. They take both girls into the woods. Paige is killed, Mari is assaulted, and then shot in the back as she swims desperately across the lake, the film refusing to cut away from any of it. What happens next is the film's quiet masterstroke. Krug's gang takes shelter from a storm at the nearest house, which turns out to be the Collingwoods. John is a surgeon. Emma is formidable in her own right. When they piece together from Murray's necklace who their guests truly are, Marie impossibly has dragged herself home. The parents become something they were never supposed to be. They methodically and brutally kill every member of the gang. The film does not glorify this. The final image of Krug's head, destroyed in a microwave, is grotesque precisely because it is performed by a doctor who swore to do no harm. In The Last House on the Left, pure evil doesn't just destroy its victims, it transforms everyone it touches. High Tension. Alexandre Aja's 2003 French horror film High Tension, known in France as Haute Tension and in the UK as Switchblade Romance, is a film that operates at a different frequency from most slashers, and not just because of the blood. It opens inside a hospital room, a badly bruised woman muttering to herself, "I won't let anyone come between us anymore." Then the film rewinds to tell you how she got there, and for the first hour, it is one of the most relentlessly terrifying home invasion films ever made. Marie and Alex are college friends arriving at Alex's family farmhouse in rural France for a quiet study weekend. That night, a hulking, filthy stranger in a battered truck arrives at the door and begins working through the household with methodical savagery. Alex's father is decapitated with a bookcase. Her mother is killed. Her young brother Tom runs from the house into the cornfield and is shot dead. Alex is bound and loaded into the back of the truck. Marie, hiding and terrified, manages to stay one step ahead of the killer through all of it, slipping behind his back, barely avoiding each encounter, desperately trying to reach her friend. And then the film reveals what it has been hiding. The police arrive. The evidence does not match the story Marie has been telling, or the one the film has been showing. The killer and Marie are the same person. She committed every murder herself, her mind constructing an entirely separate identity to contain the obsession she feels for Alex. The violence was real. The killer was not. The horror that lingers is something the physics cannot explain. That the most dangerous thing in that house all along was wearing a face that looked like a friend. Level 5. There is no coming back. Starry Eyes. Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer's 2014 film Starry Eyes opens in the grinding, unglamorous reality of Hollywood ambition. Sarah Walker waiting tables in a tacky fast food restaurant called Hot Taters, submitting headshots that go nowhere, surrounded by friends who are more competition than comfort. She is desperate, unstable, and willing to overlook almost anything if it means a way out. When she auditions for a production company called Scariest Pictures for a film called The Silver Scream, the casting director and her assistant seem odd, but they become very interested when they catch Sarah in the bathroom, pulling out her own hair in a private moment of self-destruction. The callbacks escalate in ways Sarah keeps rationalizing. She is asked to strip in a darkened audition room. She is asked to abandon her inhibitions entirely. And finally, at the producer's house, she is told the role is hers, but only if she trades something she cannot take back. She goes back, she makes the deal, and the next morning, she begins to rot. What follows is body horror of a specific and devastating kind. Sarah's skin peels, her nails fall out, she vomits maggots, she turns on her friends with a sudden, terrifying violence, beating, stabbing, and killing the people who knew her before, severing every connection to the life she is leaving behind. The cult behind Astraeus buries her in a ritual, and she emerges at dawn, flawless and hairless and entirely new. She returns to her apartment, kills her remaining roommate, and dresses herself in the gifts left for her: a black gown, a brunette wig, a silver pentagram necklace. She looks in the mirror, her eyes glow green. Ultimately, what was clear was that no one pushed her into anything she didn't already want. The cult didn't take Sarah Walker. Starry Eyes ends with the quiet, devastating understanding that she handed herself over willingly, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to reclaim. Martyrs. Pascal Logier's 2008 French-Canadian film Martyrs is not a film that can be adequately prepared for. Logier wrote it during a period of clinical depression, intending to make a film about pain, and that intention is present in every frame. The film begins with a child named Lucy escaping from an abandoned slaughterhouse where she has been imprisoned and tortured for over a year. She is placed in an orphanage. She befriends a girl named Anna, and 15 years later, carrying a shotgun and a ghost that will not leave her alone, Lucy tracks down the family she believes tortured her and slaughters them all. Anna follows to help and to clean up. But beneath the house, she finds a hidden chamber, and inside it, a woman who has been kept alive in systematic torture for an unknown period of time, metal contraptions riveted to her skull, reduced to something barely recognizable as human. A group of people arrive. They take Anna, and their leader, an elderly woman known only as Mademoiselle, explains with quiet certainty what they have been doing for decades. They are a secret philosophical society who believe that extreme, prolonged suffering pushes a human being to the threshold of transcendence, a state where they can see beyond death and report back. They have been creating martyrs. They have never had one survive the process clearly enough to be useful. They believe Anna might be different. What follows is the film's third act, which cannot be described as entertainment in any conventional sense. Anna is starved, beaten methodically and daily, stripped of everything, dignity, will, identity, until she crosses into the state they have been hunting. She is then flayed alive. She survives it. She whispers what she has seen to Mademoiselle. The assembled society waits. Mademoiselle locks herself in a room, asks her assistant whether he can imagine what comes after death, tells him to keep doubting, and shoots herself. The film ends on Anna's catatonic body, and a single intertitle, Martyr is Greek for witness. In Martyrs, the most organized, patient, and thoroughly human evil in this entire list got exactly what it wanted, and still couldn't live with the answer. And that is all 5 levels. If you are choosing where to start, Hush is the one if you want pure. The devil's rejects will get under your skin. And if you are ready for the level that leaves a mark that does not fade, Martyrs is waiting for you. Drop a comment telling me which level broke you. Hit like and subscribe. More horror breakdowns coming soon.